So this past weekend we had the storm of hell here in Melbourne, Australia. So what's there to do on a cold, wet, windy, miserable day? Curl up with the girlfriend and watch Netflix. Netflix and chill, as they call it. So I conducted a search on my superior iPad and Googled scariest movies on Netflix, and it's spat out a lot of movies that I've seen that aren't scary at all, so immediately I was quite skeptical. But Apostle came up, and this really caught my eye as soon as I read the summary. It's set in 1905. It's about a man named Thomas who travels to an island just off England, and he's trying to find his kidnapped sister, who's held for ransom on this island by some sort of evil cult. Now, I love cult movies. I love evil, twisted shit. And I love anything that's set sort of in the 19th, 18th century in England, especially around the Jack the Ripper era and that Victorian era. Love that setting. So I was immediately interested in this film. However, it starts off very slow, very, very slow burn, and I believe this movie is a little over 2 hours, but began to feel like 3 for me, probably because it's just so damn slow to begin with until the third act. Things really pick up in the third act, but we're treated to a lot of subplots that don't really have any importance to the main plot, and also there's not enough cult activity. I wanted to see more cult activity. We do see some sadistic actions of some of the people inhabiting this island, but nothing quite that culty. Of course, until the third act. That's where things definitely pick up, but they've just wasted so much crucial time with these one-dimensional characters who are obviously just spat out onto the screen just to be killed off at some later stage. Once we get into the third act, we do see some more cult activity, some sacrifices, some very unusual behavior and struggles with power. There's obviously not just one, but 2 leaders on this island who are in conflict as to who should be the rightful ruler of the land and the cult, etc. And we have this witch-type character in the film who is worshipped by these people and is basically being fed blood in return for her to grow crops and magically harvest the land and fertilize their lands. And we do see a glimpse of her power when she's fed a bit of blood and a lot of dead thorns or branches begin to come to life and leaves start coming out of them, nice green leaves. So she does have power, but she's also not so much being worshipped. It seems like she's being held captive. They attempt some sort of lame backstory as to how she came about. She's basically found by the 2 guys that are struggling to be leaders of this cult in the island. They basically found her in the forest and somehow discovered that she had powers. If you feed her blood, that she can harvest the lands and fertilize the crops and make everything grow and become beautiful and green. How exactly did they discover she had these powers? What would possess a person to feed someone blood that they find in the middle of nowhere? Why? Why would you do it? But I have quite a big suspension of disbelief, and I watch films to be entertained. So it did definitely pick up in the third act, and I was definitely interested by then. Conversation stopped and attention was just on the screen. It's just a shame they didn't utilize the build-up a lot better in the first and second act. Sure, there was a couple of things that really catch your attention when you see glimpses of the witch's other self showing herself to Thomas for some reason that we don't really find out exactly. But either way, there are minor cult activities or just weird things happening where basically the residents of this island have to fill up bottles of blood. So we can see something strange is going on with the inhabitants, and obviously we find out in the third act the blood goes to this witch so she can harvest the lands and all that sort of stuff. But I still think we needed a little bit more in the first 2 acts. It was definitely starting to drag, and I was definitely becoming bored, and I was actually almost starting to regret picking this film to watch on my awful, rainy, dark, miserable, cold day. but then things definitely picked up in the third act, but it was just too little too late to save the film, I think, in my personal opinion. It's still definitely worth a watch. It's made quite well. Just because it's a slow burn type movie, some people might actually appreciate it. I can see a lot of people will love this movie, and I can also see a lot of people will hate this movie. And also, there's some people like me, myself, and some of my friends that just think it's okay. So I'm kind of there where I think it's okay, maybe leaning towards good. Not very good, definitely very far from an awesome film. It's probably not something I'd watch again. And on the evil Bannock scale out of 13, I'll give Apostle an 8. It could have ranked a lot higher. I expected a bit more. Definitely reading the summary, I was very, very hyped to see this film. Unfortunately, it just starts off so slow, doesn't have very good character development, subplots aren't really necessary and don't connect to the story all that well. It's just kind of all over the shop for the first 2 acts, but things definitely pick up in the third act, and I definitely did enjoy it, and my eyes were glued to the screen for that third act. I just wish it had that type of feeling and captured that effect from the very beginning. We would have had a very good film on our hands. Either way, check it out yourself. It's definitely worth a watch if you're into cult movies, horror movies, and all sorts of weird shit like your creepy uncle, this guy right here. Don't forget to subscribe, click that notification bell, and keep coming back for all your Diablo 3 trailer reactions and movie review, especially horror movie review, needs right here with your favorite creepy uncle in this universe.